The true story of the Library of Alexandria ends not with a tragic accidental fire, but with a murder. Forget everything you know about what happened to the Library of Alexandria. The common narrative is a lie. The real destruction of the Library of Alexandria began with the deafening roar of a mob, the glint of a double-headed axe, and the sickening crack as it split the jaw of a colossal statue. This wasn't just any statue, and this wasn't just any building. This was the Serapeum, the heart of pagan worship in ancient Alexandria. A Christian historian who witnessed this event in ancient Egypt tells us they were promised the world would end if the statue was harmed. The air was thick with the pagan fear of divine retribution and the Christian ecstasy of holy war. But when the sky didn't fall, a calculated frenzy was unleashed. This wasn't just destruction. It was a public execution of knowledge and the eradication of lost history. The official histories, focusing on the Julius Caesar fire centuries earlier, provide the perfect smokescreen for this far more disturbing truth. But why was such a brutal, methodical purge necessary? Our ancient history documentary reveals a campaign of psychological terror that preceded the final bloodshed, a detail mainstream sources omit. The most shocking part of this investigation isn't about burning ancient scrolls. It's about the deliberate, ritualistic way one of the greatest ancient civilizations was forced to destroy its own mind. Join us as we uncover the forensic details of a crime history has tried to bury. That brutal spectacle, the dismemberment of a god in 391 AD, was the true end of the Alexandria Library. But the cover-up, the historical smokescreen that has hidden the truth about who burned the Library of Alexandria, began 4 centuries earlier. The story you've been fed is simple. In 48 BCE, Julius Caesar, tangled in a civil war in Alexandria, Egypt, accidentally sets fire to the docks and the great Library of Alexandria, the mind of the ancient world, goes up in smoke. An accident of Roman history. Later, historians give us the shocking number: 40. 0 ancient scrolls burned. It's a catastrophe designed to end the conversation. But our investigation into this historical mystery reveals a disturbing contradiction. In his own meticulously detailed account of the war, Caesar is conspicuously silent about destroying the world's most famous library, a deafening omission for a man obsessed with his legacy. Propagandists know the most effective lie is one of omission. But the key evidence that shatters the narrative comes from the Greek geographer Strabo. In his monumental work Geographica, written just decades after Caesar's supposed cataclysm, he doesn't describe ruins. He describes the Malsion, the library's parent institution, as an active part of the palace complex, a thriving place with scholars sharing communal meals and debating in a covered walkway, the Peripatos. So, what happened to the Library of Alexandria in 48 BCE? The evidence points not to the main library, but to warehouses filled with scrolls, a terrible loss of lost knowledge. Yes, but not the knockout blow we've been sold. The story of Caesar's fire is a brilliant piece of historical misdirection, hiding the real, deliberate extermination. The true story of the destruction of the Library of Alexandria is about a slow rot that ended not with an accident, but with a calculated act of annihilation. That lie about Julius Caesar's fire served a purpose. It gave history an easy answer. But the truth is far more complex, because the target was far more than just a building. To understand the scale of this lost history, you have to see the physical place. For centuries, the great Library of Alexandria was a ghost, with no ruins or archaeological marker. But in 1944, archaeologists digging at the Serapeum Temple in Alexandria found its birth certificate: 10 foundation plaques of gold, silver, and bronze. This archaeology gives us a shocking sense of scale for the daughter library. The main temple stood a confirmed 16.2 meters wide, a statement of cultural dominance from Ptolemaic Egypt. From this verifiable measurement, the reality of the ancient library takes shape. It was a sprawling campus in the royal district, a network of buildings housing the greatest minds of the age. But what was inside this ancient library? This was where Eratosthenes first calculated the circumference of the Earth, with stunning accuracy. It was where the foundations of geometry were laid down by Euclid, whose work is still taught today. It was where the secrets of human anatomy were first explored through dissection by physicians like Herophilus. The Ptolemaic kings were obsessed with collecting the world's knowledge, sometimes by force, seizing books from ships that docked in the harbor. This collection held the keys to medicine, astronomy, mathematics, the accumulated ancient wisdom of Greek, Egyptian, and Babylonian civilizations. It was the ancient world's internet, its university, and its laboratory, all in one. For this reason, its very existence was a threat that had to be neutralized by design. A place that powerful, a symbol that potent, couldn't be allowed to fade away. It had to be broken, publicly. To understand the explosion of violence in 391 AD, you have to understand the political climate of the late Roman Empire. Just a decade earlier, the Edict of Thessalonica had made Nicene Christianity the state religion. Paganism was no longer a rival, it was an illegal and despised enemy. We return to the final destruction of the Library of Alexandria at the Serapeum. The axe falls, the god is dismembered. But that was just the opening act of a meticulously planned military operation. The Christian historian Socrates Scholasticus documents the calculated provocation by the city's fanatical bishop, Theophilus of Alexandria. Just before the attack, Theophilus ordered his men to parade sacred pagan relics through the city to publicly mock and humiliate the followers of the old gods. The intent was clear: to trigger a riot. But this was a trap. The pagan historian Eunapius describes the attackers not as an angry mob, but as a force acting with military-like tactics. They were organized. Socrates confirms this, calling the ensuing street battle a desperate affray that ended only with satiety of bloodshed. This was a massacre, a key event in the decline of the Roman Empire's intellectual tradition. Imagine the terrifying realization that a force is coming to erase your history, your gods, and every scroll containing a thought they disagree with. This was a systematic, violent cleansing. After storming the Serapeum, the attackers stole everything that wasn't literally nailed down, leaving only the massive stone floors. This wasn't an accident. This was a sanctioned demolition, the real answer to how the Library of Alexandria was destroyed. That brutal purge, that methodical cleansing of thought, was the real inferno. But history abhors a vacuum, so one final lie was created: the myth of the Arab conquest. The story that in 642 AD, Caliph Omar ordered the last ancient scrolls burned to heat the city's bathhouses is a powerful fiction. But it was invented hundreds of years later. This fictional story was a piece of later political propaganda, serving to vilify a rival culture centuries after the fact. Our proof comes from the Coptic bishop John of Nikiu, who witnessed the conquest. His detailed chronicle of the city's fall never mentions the destruction of any library. Why? Because after the Serapeum purge of 391 AD, there was likely nothing of significance left to burn. The true end of the Great Library of Alexandria was a slow strangulation, culminating in a violent, fanatical purge. The loss of this ancient library wasn't just about lost knowledge, it was the death of an idea that all knowledge was worth pursuing. It was a victory for dogmatism over inquiry. The truth has been buried because it's a mirror, showing how easily a society can be manipulated into destroying its own cultural heritage. This pattern is a timeless warning from ancient history. Power that fears questions will always come for the books first. This pattern of destruction echoes today in the digital book burnings of online mobs and the deliberate spread of misinformation designed to erase a verifiable past. The fragility of knowledge is a lesson the lost Library of Alexandria teaches us every day. The stones of the Serapeum are dust, but the echo of that axe blow resonates today in every act of censorship. The question is, are we listening? If you want to uncover more historical mysteries and suppressed histories, subscribe to our channel. The evidence is still out there.